of this module, we looked at the preparing to learn and looked at learning and what is learning. We're now going to actually focus on a little bit on learning styles and get a little understanding of how we learn. This is going to actually influence the way you approach things on your course, but also prepare you for work and lifelong learning and becoming an independent learner, because actually finding out the best way we learn is going to help us be more independent in this process. So when we move on, within the course where you're doing work-based learning, or when you actually get a job at the end of it, employers will expect you to learn on the job. They'll expect you to take on further study and complete CPD activities. So this is going to be very much around an independent process. So being able to understand your learning style and understand learning styles is going to help with that. Also, as a person maybe delivering educational content or information or presentations, understanding your group and dynamics and understanding how other people learn is going to help you when you're putting information and presentations together. So it's really important to identify what the best way that you learn is and develop a deep and active learning skills, which are going to help you throughout your lifelong career pathway. So what is learning? So many experiences life provide us with learning opportunities from which we can choose that we learn from or not. Learning involves far more than just thinking. It involves actually your whole personality, your senses, your feeling, your intuition, your beliefs and values and wills. Learning needs to meet some personal needs, recognise identities such as embracing or enabling evaluation, or you need to make sure that learning is worthwhile and you're being successful in that process. So it's really important that we spend a bit of time about understanding this. So when does learning occur? When we gain a mental or physical grasp of a subject. We make sense of a subject, event or feeling by interpreting it into our own words or actions. We use maybe a newly acquired skill or ability or knowledge in conjunction with the skills and understanding we already possess. We do something with our new knowledge or skill and take ownership of it. So some key principles of learning. People learn best when they are treated with respect. Learning opportunities should be, when possible, linked to previous and positive experiences. When possible, learners should take part in the actual planning of learning activities. People learn best when their physical environment is comfortable. So we talked a little bit about this at the start of the term and preparing to study. Interaction with a facilitator is vital. So when you're communicating, discussing and bouncing ideas off with somebody. Learning activities and or delivery need to be varied. So, we don't learn, if I came in and just presented PowerPoint slides to you about every subject and topic that you're ever going to cover, are you going to learn everything from that? No. You're going to learn from experiences, doing tasks, having a go at things, completing placements. This is that learning process. Rewards help. So it helps you, gain confidence and, build from that. And it's really important, self-evaluation and self-reflection is really important part of that kind of key learning and process, which you've already obviously looked at. So there's a PACT learning cycle, which basically looks at procedure, applying, consider and transform. So the procedure is the knowledge or theory or skill or ability that's acquired. We apply the knowledge or skill and it's practiced in some way. We consider the results and practice and evaluate which are assessed. And then we transform the original knowledge or ability into a modified action accordingly. So we've kind of looked at what is learning again and kind of refreshed your memory from what we did at the start. But actually now the kind of key thing we need to be looking at is, how do I learn the best? What is the best approach for me? And there's a VAK or VARK model which looks at different styles of learning. So we've got the visual, the audio, oral, the reading and writing, and then the kinesthetic approach. So basically, it's a short and simple inventory. It's easily understood and it's very much applied in lots of different settings. It's again similar to kind of some of the reflective models. It's been around for quite a while, and it's been developed and used. And there's different types of models that have been developed from this VAK or VARK model. So, kind of recapping, it's VAK is the acronym. It stands for your kind of major senses or modes of learning. So it's around that visual, audio or oral, reading and writing, and that kinesthetic, depending on your neural system with which a learner prefers to receive information. So chances are as students, there'll be a range of people that will rather visual information. There'll be a range of people that rather hear things and hear information. There'll be other people who like to read and write the information, and quite often there's lots of people who are kind of kinesthetic learners who learn by doing, and this is quite prevalent within the kind of professional degrees where there's sport and things like that, where you actually enjoy learning by actually coaching or doing something or completing a test, like a lab experience or a fitness test or strength and conditioning session. You actually learn better in that doing environment. So focusing on the start point, the visual, so looking at images, might be videos, charts, flow graphs, arrows, hierarchies. This is kind of where you prefer that information in that format. Other devices may be presented words. It might be that you lay out spacing, headings, patterns, graphs, designs. And this is basically the preference. You are more aware of the immediate environment and spatial awareness, so this visual aspect of learning. So you might learn by watching somebody doing something. So there's a couple of examples to actually test your visual skills, and which are available as YouTube videos, which are in this week's Blackboard folder. So you might want to stop the video and go and have a little look at some of these visual skills and visual tests. Okay, so now we've got the A, which is the audio or oral information. It's perceptual mode, describes preference for getting information from a spoken or heard word. People report that they learn best from hearing, so it might be you might attend conferences, listening to speeches, listening to kind of oral presentations or feedback, focus groups, discussions, meetings, self-talk, talking with us. So it's around learning from their own talking, but also from listening to others. Okay, so the reading and writing, this is a preference of where information displayed in words, either which you're written or you read. People with this have a strong preference for place, importance on precision of language, and are keen to use this. So it's around using quotes, lists, handouts, textbooks, diaries, planners, the internet, bullet points, PowerPoints, manuals. They all have a strong link to words and are kind of affiliate to that. Then kinesthetic. So this by definition refers to people who have perceptual preference related to experience or practice, so simulated or real. It's actually referred to often as learning by doing, but needs to be cautioned by, as learning by doing can be sometimes dangerous or harmful. So it's around that kind of doing approach, which is often seen on sports students, often are quite often kinesthetic learners. People will use examples, analogies as sort of studies, videos, stories, learning from their own experiences. They want the application of things, of real work, and to make sense, to get the sight, touch, taste and smell, and take in their environment and experiences as they learn new things. Movement is often an important mode, and it often appears in reality of a situation that most appeals. So if I'm applying it in a practical context, you're going to learn more if I'm going to teach you how to catch a ball. Okay, so you may get some verbal description and you may get some visual demonstration, but actually having a go at it, this is it's going to help you learn how to remember where to put your hands, how to remember to bring the ball into your body and how it feels, and all those key emotions with actually remembering that skill. Whereas if I actually just said, right, I'm going to ask you to catch a ball, this is what you're going to do and this is what it looks like. Okay, you're going to get far more from that kinesthetic approach. So we've talked about the kinesthetic approach in a sporting context, but also it may apply to actually that learning process of when you're actually making notes, you're doing assignments. So that's why I've kind of talked about in lots of sessions about doing concept maps, brainstorming, reading, making notes, all those things that are kind of doing activities that are going to help you remember and learn the information. Okay, so which style are you? Imagine yourself in an uncomfortable situation. If you were lost in a strange city at night, how would you find your way to your destination? Would you use a map, the visual? Would you ask for directions? Or would you just keep on walking until you worked out where you were in that kinesthetic feel of the environment? Okay, another question. What style of presentation do you prefer? Think back to the last presentation you attended, or a presentation you attended, and what was it stuck out in your mind the most? Was it the charts or the visual aids? Was it the words the presenter communicated to you? Or was it actually some sort of activity or being part of the audience that you participated in, that kinesthetic? So have a think about presentations that you've attended or things that you've done, and think whether you are more interested or have got more of a memory of the visual, auditory or the kinesthetic approach. So why is it important to consider these learning styles and being aware of yourself, of your learning style, but also being aware of others? So example, you know, being aware of the best way that we learn is going to help us improve and come up with systems and strategies to improve that learning process in ourselves. But also, if we're kind of doing a presentation or a practical assessment, it may be we need to consider the learning styles of others, but also then looking about reflection and personal development, trying to improve ourselves. So as I mentioned, the two approaches are important. That personal and self-development, reflection, looking at my learning style, how do I learn the best, is one key. But then also in another element, if you're coaching or working or in a work placement, understanding how other people are working. So understanding your players is a really good example of understanding the importance of that learning style. Okay, so what I'd like you to do now is a little exercise. If you're in a group scenario where you can discuss with a partner, then you could do that. If not, or you want to do a Skype little chat with somebody or chat with somebody else who's maybe not even on the course, you can discuss. If you're not, again, you're going to just note down some ideas. Can you identify what is your preferred learning style? Can you identify different learning styles of maybe some people that you work with? And give us some examples of how you think this is, or why you think they are that style. And what is your conclusion on learning styles? What do you think you've got from this, and you know how you can use that in the future?